the camera's causing issues with it, so I'm turning the camera off anyway.
Oh, we're not going to get to see your face.
Well, you already did.
I mean,
Steve
but the
has
people watching.
Yeah.
The people watching won't get to see your face, and that's the tragedy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our post-election hangouts. I am here with some friends, and we're going to talk about how...
And an enemy who thinks he's a regressive.
An enemy. we're gonna talk about how everything is terrible and we're all screwed. So, joining me
let the
first,
bitching begin.
The aforementioned American anarchist. How are you, my friend?
Hello. And you know what? The audience will get to see my mug for a little bit.
Cool.
Oh, and now to turn the camera off so that it doesn't crash my phone again.
Drink it in, people. Okay. Also, Danny Kors. How are you, man?
Hey there. We should all be afraid, though. We should all be afraid.
Oh, definitely.
And Mr. Demotivator Opinion, sir, all the way from the other side of the world. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. You can just call me Tim. That's fine.
Tim,
Hey,
don't mind.
Tim, can I live in your cupboards?
It's more impressive to call you by your YouTube name now.
Well, I've got two available. So,
All right.
and
Thanks.
under the couch.
And last but not least, my arch nemesis, Blissful Melancholy. How are you?
Well, Steve, first I want to say that I am absolutely not sorry about sending you that box full of cat turds. However, I will put aside our differences for the sake of fighting the greater evil at hand.
It was pretty tense.
And the
for
greater
all my
evil
life.
is D's Nuts, who we all know won the election, right? It was D's Nuts?
I thought the
Or
greater
am I
evil,
missing it?
I thought the greater evil was Harambe.
By the way, Bliss, I appreciate your apology, and I hope that you'll accept mine for having that package returned to sender. You'll be getting that any day.
Steve, I think you misheard. That was not an apology. I'm not sorry, but
okay.
I hate you less than
She's
Trump.
going to put it aside.
Sorry, not
She
sorry.
said she didn't regret it.
I'm not sorry. You know what it is? It's like Superman and Lex Luthor teaming up, to stop an alien invasion, and you can work out for yourselves who is who in that.
And I'm a big fan of comics, and you are you, as far as I understand. So we have that in common, at least.
There we go.
So, do we want to go around the group, and each person can talk about why their life has been destroyed?
That sounds like a fantastic idea.
Like who's
Well, Tim, would you like to go first? Tell us how your life has been destroyed. Tell us how America has ruined your life.
Well, it's funny because on Twitter I was trying to think about how this.
He now has to hide all these Americans. That's how it's ruined his life.
That's true, but I've got a lot of space, so it's fine. I was trying to think about how this election impacts me, and it made me think and then someone on Twitter was like, "Oh, typical. How does it affect me? So selfish." But I was like, no, because people always say New Zealanders and Australians and people from other countries aren't really allowed to comment on this kind of stuff. And I did receive some messages like, "Oh, how do you feel now, foreigner? Now you can shut up." And I'm like, well, but people are always telling me to shut up about America anyways. It's like nothing's changed. But I was like, after the 2007-8 crash, it was very hard to find a job in New Zealand, and all the employment sort of dried up. So the main impact that it could have on me would be economic. It could be hurt our economy and make it hard for me personally to find a job. That's probably the main thing. And also, I mean, if I want to immigrate to America or migrate to America or something, but I think
Why would you want to do that? Trump got elected.
Hold off on
because
that.
I want to join the resistance. But
okay.
all right. Besides that, it would primarily have economic impact on my life when I think about it. But I also, I have empathy for other human beings, and I'm kind of a humanist, which is a problem sometimes. But I think I think about how it's going to actually affect people in America, and I feel bad about it. And just from a empathetic angle, I think about LGBTQ people, and I think about the different cultures and races in America, and just see how it's going to so negatively impact them. And I can't help but be I have an opinion about that, because it's, when you see something bad happening, you can't help but say something. It's why these people comment on the Middle East, and they're throwing gays off buildings, and they're doing this, and they're always sticking their nose and just evil Americans into the rest of the world's business. But then the moment you say wow, what's going on in your country is pretty fucked up, they're like, shut up, foreigner.
It's
it's
the fallacy of relative privation. The idea that just because things are worse means that you can't focus on the things that aren't as bad.
Yeah.
But
that's
I mean,
why.
personally,
That's why
I can't
I'm
waste my time on the Middle East because I don't live near there. I don't have the resources to actually do anything about it. I do have the resources to do something about things here in America.
Yeah, I'll finish my spiel and then I'll pass it off to somebody else. But I'll say like that's the reason why I'm such a like dirty lib, social justice, whatever the fuck.
Learn economics, libtard.
Because I feel a sense of empathy and humanism with other people, and then when I see it, I want to comment on it. And like this is completely unrelated, but that's why I want to make videos about like depression and suicide for the men's rights group that we've started, because I feel like my personal experience can hopefully help someone else from New Zealand anywhere around the world. And I feel like I want to reach out to people in America who are like feeling very despaired right now and just like give them a bit of a hug and be like, we'll get through this, guys. You know, so that's my spiel. That's how I feel about it.
Your compassion offends me. I can't believe that you care so much about other people, that you're sticking your nose in our politics.
Yeah, I know.
Virtue signaling,
TJ
isn't
got
it?
triggered. TJ Kirk got triggered.
I think it's
that.
weird that empathy and humanism.
Is that like a headline?
Empathy and humanism are basically just seen as like virtue signaling, and it's become a virtue in itself to not give a fuck about other human beings. And I just like. I'm not built like that. I can't not just be like, I feel compassion for you. Like, I can't help it. Maybe I could switch that off and just become some kind of like...
Just become TJ.
Yeah, just like, I don't give a fuck about your feeling.
Like I said, as soon as you said you have
terrified
empathy...
for your civil rights? Fuck you, crybaby. I could do that, I guess.
As soon as you said you have empathy, TJ was triggered. TJ Kirk. He was like, oh, no, this guy triggered me. He said he has human empathy.
Yeah.
Who knew that in 2016 empathy would be a bad thing?
Well, I mean, given the choice, if I have to choose one or the other, I would much rather surround myself with people who signal their virtue than signal their depravity and their vices and their awfulness. I mean,
I'm sorry I signal my alcoholism.
All the people who piss and moan about quote-unquote virtue signalers, aren't they sort of virtue signaling themselves? Aren't they saying that they're better than the virtue signalers? Because
no, they're depravity.
Not.
They're depravity signalers.
Yeah, they're depravity signalers.
Anti-virtue signals.
So they're
I'm signaling my anti-virtue. Yeah.
Okay, next? So American anarchist, why don't you go next? Tell us how you have been doing the last few days since the election.
Well, I think I'll be fine considering the fact that my skin's pretty pale. But I mean, at least on that part, I'll probably do as well as poor people did under Bush, which means I'll probably survive the however long we have Trump in, whether it's 2 terms or fucking monarch, whatever. So I'll probably survive in Trump's America. Being bisexual gives me a little bit of an advantage in the fact that not everyone I date will be like a man, so I won't immediately come off as LGBT, and people might not really... I feel like I might have a little bit of fun fighting some people, though. I mean, there hasn't been any violence from racists in my area yet, but there's also not as many in the area that I live. I live in a lot of that's very diverse. I'm not going to say a lot of minorities, just it's very diverse in general. So, I mean, I think I'll do fine comparatively to other people, but I really do feel for other people, and I feel like my rights will, some of them will definitely be hindered with Trump in office. I think everybody's rights, even if you are a straight white guy, will be hindered.
So to sum up your position, you're kind of just waiting for the resistance.
I'm not waiting for it. I'm trying to build it up.
Wait,
I'm going to create the resistance.
You need to settle down, find yourself a nice girl, get married.
Yeah. I read an article that said that basically liberals should just retire and start like working on their garden and stuff. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to help that much. To be honest,
I saw the other day, I guess yesterday, Sam Harris tweeted, "It's tempting to just spend the next 4 years reading and writing fiction." Well, it must be nice, asshole. Must be nice to have the option.
Just whack.
Fucking.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, Sam Harris is such shit.
Yeah, gee.
I mean, Richard
Like,
Dawkins.
it's tempting to
his
spend
biggest-
the next 4 years just sitting on your wealth. And
when it comes to Richard Dawkins,
Yeah.
or when it comes to Richard Dawkins, I mean, his bigotry is a bit understandable in the fact that he's an older person. But Sam Harris should fucking know better.
Well, and I mean, I'll go on a mini tangent about Harrison, and we'll let somebody else tell us their terrible story about what they've been doing since the election. The thing about Harris is he did come out pretty strong against Trump recently, but he just doesn't seem to realize that all of the anti-Muslim shit he's been pushing for years was a huge help to Trump. Sam Harris was one of the people that, with a lot of sort of intellectual cred, that helped to push that anti-Muslim narrative, that it's us against them, anti-Islam bullshit, that helped to fuel the Trump campaign and the support for Trump. So forgive me if I don't stand up and applaud for Sam Harris when he says, "Hey, this Trump guy is kind of terrible." Yeah, you think? Because,
my impression is that, sorry to cut you off there, but my impression is that some of the people who were against Trump and a chunk of the people who were for Hillary were just doing it for like tribalistic reasons. Like at a certain point they decided, Trump's stupid and he's ugly and he's orange and he's got stupid hair.
Doxy the bush kangaroo.
And I've decided that now I'm going to be against Trump. Or some people were like, I want Hillary to win because like she's the first woman and then she's going to be, so fantastic and so upstanding. And they didn't think much about the actual policies. And I think like Sam Harris decided to draw a line and just said, I'm firmly on the anti-Trump side now, but he didn't really seem to express much understanding of like why or his role in that or like how he was related to that. He just said, no, now I hate Trump. And to me, some of the, and I mean, just to bring up someone horrible, like Devin Tracy, AIU, fully supported Hillary Clinton, and from what I could see, it was mostly tribal. It was mostly just him saying like, I want to tell all the people in my audience who like Trump to get fucked, so I'm just going to keep saying Hillary. But you ask him why he wants Hillary, and you can't get a solid reason except like Trump's an orange monster. So a lot of the time it was just like tribalism.
Well, that is kind of true. Trump is an orange monster.
Right, but I mean, people weren't thinking deeply about the policies and about how it affects the real world. They were just thinking like, I've chosen Trump or I've chosen Hillary, and now I'd use this as a wedge for all the people I know.
The future in America is not bright, but it's definitely orange.
What my view was, Hillary is like, it was kind of lesser evilism. It was like,
sorry for ripping you off there, Captain Meekle.
Like, Trump's a disaster. Hillary has better policies. I can see who it's going to hurt, and that's why I support Hillary. But it wasn't tribal. It wasn't like, I think she's fantastic, and wow, she's great. I wanted Bernie, but whatever.
Oh, it was like I ended up voting for Stein because my state was solid blue. Hillary got all the electoral votes in Massachusetts, from what I know. So
that's a whole other debate right now.
So I basically was like, well, Hillary's going to win my state. She's going to win my district. She's going to win the electoral vote where I live. It doesn't matter who the fuck I vote for. So hand me a brick. I'm going to vote for Stein.
You didn't write in Harambe, so okay.
I mean, I almost wrote in Max Stirner for the ballot.
I don't know about the rest of you, but Harambe was not registered as a write-in candidate in my state, so.
But I'm just saying, just to sum up what I was saying there, I think I would support Hillary based solely on a comparison of the policies, rather than it's just a wedge that I'm just going to be like, stupid Trump supporters, I hate all of you, go away. Like, that's not a constructive way of thinking about politics. It's like, how does it matter? How does it impact people? What are the actual fucking policies? And that's the problem with Trump. I think his policies are hideous. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Okay, so Bliss, your post-election reaction, if you would.
Well, first, fuck. Second.
Let's run off to New Zealand.
Working on it.
Hey, moving in with you, Tim.
So, well, I have done fair amount of crying, so that thing that happened. Some discussion with numerous friends, including Tim and Varmint Coyote, and some with American Anarchist here. And I guess I've been thinking about, well, you know, the fact, well, my vulnerabilities as a person who is, you know, for one, pansexual, for another, I like pass as a woman because I like feminine things, and I don't know, I'm like sort of womanish, but I'm more like agender most of the time. So there's that, and the fact that I'm, you know, tiny, and I've thought about basically lots of strategies to protect myself from anyone who would like to try to grab me by the pussy. Like, for example, in Ohio, it's legal to have pepper spray and a stun gun, which pepper spray actually, from what I understand, tends to work better than a gun for self-defense. It's harder to take away from people. There's also just like things that I've thought about, like, gee, maybe I should just start wearing more modest clothing so people notice me as much, and basically walking around constantly looking like I'm really aggressive just to get people to back the fuck away from me, because,
well,
you
that's
know.
not going to stop most of them. I mean, we had this, Natalie Alfred had this conversation on Facebook. She was talking about how she had a 100-pound dog who looked like the scariest thing, and there were still people who catcalled her from a car.
Yeah.
So,
no,
I mean,
there are people who are going to do that regardless, but
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
I
I would
and
rather.
throw it into
And
the
this
car.
this isn't, again, this is
That could fix it.
this is not
Oh, God.
this is not at all to imply that I should have to do this, obviously, or that
Yeah.
other queer people or women should do this. But me personally, I want to take as many precautions as I can to protect myself, because I realize that there are a lot of awful, misogynistic, violent people out there that are now being encouraged by Trump to do whatever the fuck they want to women and to queer
they're
people.
emboldened by his racism,
Yes.
by his
But so
misogyny.
you're talking about just like public harassment, just by
Yeah.
like random people.
Yeah, and you know, I live in a pretty Trumpy town. I've seen a lot of Trump signs around here, but there, to be fair,
I live in
there
a
are, you know,
Trumpy apartment building. But
You guys
that's
live
like
in a
the
Trumpy
only place.
country right now, to be honest.
Yeah,
well,
yes. But that's the interesting thing now is, you know, the Electoral College was responsible for Trump winning, but Hillary barely won the popular vote, and there are also the non-voters to account for, which I think,
who were registered.
honestly, a lot of non-voters, they were the ones that wanted Bernie. They were the Bernie or bust people, and they selfishly decided to abstain from voting and allowed Trump to, you know, come into power. And because they, you know, Hillary is part of the establishment, and that pissed them off, despite the fact that her policies are still closer to Bernie than they are to Trump's. You know, that's not to say that she doesn't have some very problematic policies, but just a lot of them, and I would bet money that a lot of the ones who abstained from voting were white men and some white women.
Yeah.
And
You know,
and
well, sorry, I'm cutting you off there, but you know, just to do some mansplaining. But Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, he basically he said to vote Hillary, but he only did it like 2 days before the election. I think it's much too late, because the whole time I was saying, like, look, I wanted Bernie. I don't like Hillary. She's not a good candidate, but for fuck's sake, you have to vote for her. You know.
Yeah.
But
well,
Cenk
I
was
mean,
basically
as
like, well, now 2 days before the election, I'll say vote Hillary. And I was like, well, it's a bit late. You should have told people to do that much earlier. But then I guess everyone would be like,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jimmy Dore was still saying Jimmy Dore was still saying,
Jimmy Dore.
vote third party. Vote third party. I don't care if you're in a battleground state. Vote third party. And I was
Well, 'cause
kind
I
of
think
sitting. I was
all of
sitting
those
there like,
ideals-
that's naive.
You know, in the period when Bernie lost to the election, all of those ideals were not useful because it's like what you can't achieve anything in that span of time. And I think now that Trump's won, all the ideals to me come rushing back, and it's like progressive war's on, and let's just fucking go super fucking massive Super Saiyan lib right now. So, you know.
Well, I think maybe Danny Corks. I think maybe Danny Corks should talk because he's the only one of us who hasn't talked yet.
But I'm just saying, I held back,
Danny, what do you...
and now there's no reason to hold back. All right, go.
Okay, so I don't think, for instance, I'm born as a cisgendered straight white man, and I was actually in the 31% that voted Hillary. Like, so even though, I'd like to apologize based on association for the fact that we as a collective put Trump into office. So even though I personally didn't vote for him, like one thing I do know is that even though what the bigotry that's surrounding him isn't going to affect me personally, that doesn't mean I don't care for the people that it is going to affect.
Well, Trump has a history of anti-Semitism with some of the things he's said, along with his Islamophobia. So he hates both Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, and I am of Jewish descent, so.
Hashtag Free Palestine.
Hashtag Free Palestine? Okay.
I am very in favor of freeing Palestine from Israel.
Hashtags don't work if you say them.
So Danny.
Hashtag
said,
shut up, Steve.
Danny, did you just partly say you were responsible for Trump or something?
I said, I sort of have guilt by association because even though I personally didn't vote for him, I was part of the group that, as in white men, that did vote for him, because even though I was in the 31% that voted for Hillary, it was more white men voted for Trump rather than.
Yep.
Here's something. Okay,
Which I still don't get.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
he's managed to. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say to Dan, here's my on that. Don't focus on the guilt, because guilt is not productive. Get angry at the white men who are doing this shit.
White men put a gun
And
to
use
the
that
temple.
anger.
They put a gun to America's temple and they pulled the fucking trigger.
Now it's time to strike back. I personally am not gonna, I'll probably join the resistance from behind the scenes,
like George Soros.
Well, I mean,
one of the things I noticed from this election would be the anti-feminist reaction to it. For instance, apparently according to Undoomed, he thinks that the Christian right is far less scary than gender politics.
well, yeah, that's because the guy's a misogynist. Of course he thinks it's less scary.
And that's all we need to hear from him.
And then there's
Now will he
people
shut
that
the
are
fuck
sort of
up?
making cringe compilations, and seeing those people crying, it's actually heartbreaking, because and apparently they're making fun of them, making fun of people that are far weaker than they are. Paul Joseph Watson did it. Our old buddy Bering, she doesn't need to consent if she initiates.
Yeah, she doesn't need to consent if she initiates. Well, if she passes out while doing it, you need to stop, because she's not in control at that point.
But that's the thing, on a lot of those photos of people crying, a lot of those photos were taken from the Hillary Clinton HQ while they were losing. It's what do you think they'd be doing over there? They'd be fucking crying. Of course they would be. They were losing.
Yeah.
There's also
all of their hopes and dreams of their presidential candidate losing. Of course they're gonna fucking cry.
Also, when you look at when you look at, sorry, I lost my thought there for a second. But when you look at a lot of the reactions on YouTube too, you have people who reacted to Trump winning from the social justice side. The video from Riley J. Dennis just stuck with me. I'm like, holy shit, this is how I feel. It's like I feel like I want to just give in to apathy and just give up because this is going to be a while. It's not just going to be 4 years, and if Trump gets elected, it's not going to be just 8 years. You're still going to have the Supreme Court justice he puts in, who is probably going to be David Duke, for all I know. Like,
I'm scared.
I wouldn't put it above Trump to put David Duke as a Supreme Court justice.
Well, he owes him a favor.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe
yeah.
it's just my safe space of New Zealand, but I feel kind of reinvigorated in that I feel like the left has been shackled by not being willing to criticize Obama and it just being in this sense of complacency for a long time. And I've had a lot of issues with Obama's presidency, and it's just like the left has just been silent. And I guess now, but it's also going to mean a lot of tough times ahead. So there's a lot of pain and suffering.
I mean, I've got to say, I like Lacey Green and all as a person. I think I personally enjoy some of her content, but I think one of the tweets she sent out where she said, I had a partial agreement / disagreement with it, where she said liberals took part in a Trump victory. I do agree with that. I do agree that there were, in many ways, there were liberals who took part in a Trump victory. But I also think that, but I don't think it was by criticizing Hillary. Although the people who just used the reactionary right-wing points who called themselves liberal, I'm not going to count them as actual liberals. They were really just yeah.
You got a little
I
cough
think
there, buddy.
I disagree with Lacey's tweet because I think trying to shame people into supporting Hillary was not a successful strategy. And
No,
I feel
not
like they
at
tried
all.
to shame liberals into voting for her, and they weren't jazzed, they weren't excited. They were like, basically, you're telling me I have to vote for this person, even though I don't like them. You know?
Well, I mean, in
then
the
it's
end,
like,
that's
yeah, it's
kind
not
of the truth.
It's like, yeah, but they didn't appeal to those people. They didn't have an aspirational message and something that those people could really hold on to and be like, I'm so excited to vote for Hillary. And then they spend the whole campaign basically like blaming those people for not being jazzed enough. And then when they lose, blame them that they lost. And it's just like, it's this cycle of
I would
apathy and anger towards their own people are going to end. Anyways.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I actually wasn't excited for voting for Hillary either. But I still voted for her because out of the two people running, she was the lesser of two evils in my opinion.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't buy that message. So, and I don't blame them. They were just not excited. Anyways, Steve was going to say something.
Well, I was going to say when I place blame, I don't place blame. I don't place blame on people. I place blame on people who voted for Donald Trump. Yeah. And that to me is the group of people that I specifically blame, but I also feel like it's a collective thing. I feel like our entire society bears a measure of guilt for this, no matter who we voted for, because we
blame the DNC
all
and Hillary Clinton the most, to be honest. Anyways, sorry.
Well, I don't know about that. I blame.
I blame the founding fathers for putting in the electoral college system.
I blame the founding fathers.
There you go. That's awesome.
All right.
They're dead. They can't defend themselves.
Fucking James Madison.
I want to hear what Steve has to say.
By the way, the electoral college. By the way, the electoral college was created as a compromise to appease slaveholders.
Yeah, to placate slave owners.
Well, that's typical.
So let's Steve talk.
Electoral college.
Something else that's
Shush, Steve's go.
something else that we can blame slavery for. I don't blame I don't blame people who weren't super enthusiastic for Hillary. I think of our assembled panel here, I was probably the one who voted for her with the least reservation. You know what I mean? Like I was probably the most enthusiastic about her as a candidate.
And I think I was the only one who didn't vote for her. Although if I was in a battleground state,
well, you were in a safe
state.
state. Yeah, you were in a safe state. But so I mean, I blame I blame the Trump voters, and I blame the Trump campaign, and I blame all of us who enabled the Trump campaign and who helped to create the environment where that campaign
and the trolls
could
who said vote for Trump because he's somehow more liberal than Hillary.
Well, yeah, well, that's just asinine. I mean, people who that's just asinine. That would be an example. That would be an example of an opinion that doesn't deserve. That'll be an example of an opinion that doesn't deserve attention.
Like, I actually saw their PolitiFact records, and Hillary, despite me not being excited for her, her scores ended
She's
up
a lot more
mostly-
honest than
were
Trump.
Mostly true, while Trump was mainly just false.
Yeah.
PolitiFact is liberal media, according to Trump, and Trump said it, so it must be true.
And I guess
And Thundercry says
factcheck.org, they reached the same conclusion.
When it comes to people that, I blame, I think that obviously Trump and his supporters and his voters are the primary people to blame, because they are, some of the greatest evil, right? They're the ones the evil, or like apathetically supporting a man who is evil despite all of his shit. And but I also think
he was going to make America great again.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
I
I've been
also
told.
think that the DNC, which from watching this election, it seems like the DNC has more power over their Democratic candidates than the Republican Party actually has over their candidates, which surprised me. That's what I gathered from this election. So the DNC having that much power, I think that they were irresponsible. I don't think that they are necessarily to blame for Trump, because they were not the Republican Party. They were not pushing the same levels of racism and xenophobia and sexism that the Republican Party was. They're not perfect either. But I think that they were delusional, and I think that they were.
But Bernie couldn't have beat him. He's a socialist.
Yeah,
I think that's bullshit because of the non-voters.
Yeah, it is bullshit. He's not a socialist.
If you look at the non-voters, the percentage of
Democrat.
people who didn't vote,
Exactly.
that I hypothesize they would have voted had Bernie run. I spoke to people. I've spoken to numerous people, and I was telling Tim this, that I can't.
There were some
say,
Bernie voters who said they were going to go and vote for Trump. I mean,
wow.
That's
what-
just
I
stupid.
can't
Of course
say
they
what
were more
company it
right-wing.
was. I can't
You
say
can't
what
be a Bernie
company it
voter.
was, but I can tell you that through a previous profession that I worked in, I spoke to multiple Republicans across the country who said that they were particularly interested in Bernie Sanders. And I've met people who identify as Republicans or libertarians who were interested in Bernie Sanders. And to me, I don't know how that worked exactly. I think that to a lot of people, disenfranchised white working class people, for example, who are not extremist racist, but of course might have some level of casual racism going on, that Bernie appealed to them simply because he was a genuine person who genuinely gave a shit. And they understood that. They gathered that from his body language, from his rhetoric. And they related to that. He gave about them. And so
I've just got to say, though, that the Trump voters really were a basket of deplorables. Most of them, like, Hillary's comment was not inaccurate on that.
But I do believe that there are like two main camps of Trump supporters, and it is you have the people that support Trump because of his racism and because of his sexism, and you also have the people who support him despite those things, because he is the only other. Well, he was putting himself. He was saying that he was anti-establishment. Of course, he's not. But a lot of gullible people clung.
No, the guy
onto
is the
that.
establishment.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've tried to tell people in my family who are voting for Trump that
I think that Bernie could have won. I don't know that it would be a landslide, but I know for a fact from my personal experience that there were a lot of people who set aside many of their conservative values because they saw that Bernie gave a shit about them, and that they didn't care that he was Jewish. They didn't.
Well, he was
they cared a
essentially
little
a New
bit
Deal
that he was a
Democrat.
socialist. I'm
Well, he's not even an actual socialist. socialist. He's a social
Yeah,
democrat.
exactly. Yeah, labeled as a socialist.
Like,
So that's my piece on that.
But can I just make a comment on the basket of deplorable things?
misogynist support
In my-
Bernie as isn't Bernie
in my
himself
opinion-
also a feminist?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Bernie,
yeah.
I think, identifies as a feminist.
Yeah.
Although Richard Dawkins self-identifies as a feminist, so I mean, not every feminist is that great.
Yeah, that's true.
Jenny McDermott identifies as a feminist, and she's a troll.
And anyways, I just think in elections in general, it never really works to treat the voters with contempt, no matter, like, if you are the candidate, you're the person, no matter what you think of those people. So I think that the basket of deplorables actually really hurt her, because we might sit around and be like, yeah, it's accurate, it's totally true.
There is a difference.
Racist, and they're like anti-Semitic, and they're horrible, horrific people. But when you put out that kind of message to,
well, when you say it
America
pisses
at large,
them off.
it's going to hurt you, because you're going to lose a lot of people who, whatever we might think of them, could have helped her into the White
Although I
House.
don't
And
think
they'd
she
be like,
should have said. I don't think she should have complimented Trump's kids, though. I mean,
yeah, that was a
Trump's
big
kids
mistake.
are as fucking bad as him. I mean,
But-
If she wanted to
bet
compliment
it's
them, she should have said they're very lifelike androids. Whoever the scientist who built them did a really good job.
well,
I
I mean,
actually think-
also, not to mention that, like, Eric Trump probably looked at the ballot and he saw his father's name, filled that one, and he's probably looking at all this like, what is this? I don't understand it.
But just to finish
I just
my little
circled
point
in my
there,
dad's name.
Let him finish his thought.
just quickly, I think that the basket of deplorables thing had parallels to the way that the Hillary campaign treated some Bernie supporters, like you're Bernie bros, you're this, you're that, and kind of like treating people with an element of contempt. And I think if you treat, even though you're like, okay, those are Trump people and they're right wingers or whatever.
Well, I've
if
referred to
if
some
you call them
people as-
deplorables, you're going to lose a lot of votes, and it's just not going to be good. And if you tell Bernie supporters that they're Bernie bros, you're going to lose a lot of them. And I think a lot of that created this malaise around Hillary Clinton, where people
I
are like,
mean, as a personal,
we don't want to vote for her, you know?
on a
And that's
personal
big
level,
problem.
I did call a few people Bernie bros, not because of their not willingness to support Hillary, but the fact that if you criticize anything about Bernie at all,
No, but
made
I'm
any
saying
criticisms.
there's a massive difference between us calling people like deplorables and Bernie bros and presidential campaigns kind of like perpetuating
Yeah,
those
she
ideas.
shouldn't-
On that
she shouldn't have
level,
done that.
It's
That
way
crippled her.
different, you know?
She
When
completely
she says
disenfranchised the
deplorables,
base.
it's
Like-
a huge problem. But when we say it, it doesn't really matter because we're just like people.
She should have reached for the left.
Like, for some reason, I saw a few Bernie bros taking Alex Jones, of all people, seriously.
Right.
Alex Jones, of all people.
Oh yeah, he was.
Well,
he
you know,
was
I-
stupid.
We already established this with TJ.
I think what you were saying, Tim, is right, and I think it hits at maybe a larger point that we lost sight of as a people in this election, which is that we should hold presidential candidates to higher standards than we hold ourselves. I tried to make this point on election night when I was on a show, and one of the other people on the show was trying to say, oh, you know, our Twitter accounts are just as bad as Donald Trump's, which no, they're not.
No.
But
I'm
also-
pretty much a troll on Twitter, and my account isn't as bad as Trump's.
Yeah. So,
Although
but
then
even if
again,
that
I'm
were
also
true,
not racist,
Wow.
homophobic, misogynistic.
Yeah,
I just
that's-
I make jokes making fun of the right wing.
Right. Well, and even if that
I
were
approve
true,
those jokes.
and everybody's, and even if that were true, and everybody's Twitter account was as bad as Donald Trump's, since when do we want our presidential candidates to not be any better behaved than we are? I mean, if well, we're all just awful, so why can't the president be awful? No, because the president's the person in charge.
No,
The
but you see,
president-
Trump was awful, but he wasn't awful to his own supporters. To his own supporters, he was like, you know, we're a big family of hate and misogyny and racism and whatever, and you're
And
all
they
with
didn't
me.
even give
Whereas,
them-
like, Hillary had the whole, and he didn't treat Clinton.
David Duke
supporters
David
with
Duke
contempt.
assures me he's not racist, that he just
He
loves his European heritage.
But he didn't treat like Bernie supporters with contempt either. He said, "Come to me, Bernie supporters." Even though I stand for like everything that you're against, come to my side and leave that Hillary shill. And it's crooked Hillary.
Shit,
And
hey,
Hillary
Hey,
voters can do
Trump,
better.
I'll come over to you so I can just punch that orange face. Just,
Well, but it actually worked. And Hillary, I think, had more of an attitude of kind of like a little bit of contempt for the little people, like, oh, it's these little voters or whatever. They'll come to me. Whereas
little
I
bit
think
of-
Trump,
She had like elitism where she's like, "Oh, they'll all come to me."
Right, but Trump didn't have that. He said, "We're a big family of hate. Come here and join my big movement of hating."
Wow.
I was
Unless
like-
you're Muslim
Wow, secular
And,
talk was right.
or black.
Wow, secular
I don't
talk
need
right.
black people.
Secular
women,
Talk was right about what? I stopped watching him after I watched Garrett's video talking about how he's an asshole. And then
Yeah,
soon
I
after
agree that
watched
he's an asshole,
Bliss's video.
But
I was just thinking,
I agree that
Trump got people to vote
that-
against their own interests too. Oh god.
meaning
Sorry, Denny's.
that because apparently because Trump sort of used populism to woo over Bernie supporters, that they bought into that.
A minority of them.
Oh god, that's fucking morons. I mean, anyways, go on.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, he managed to woo TJ over. I bet TJ's audience mostly voted for Trump.
Also, I'm allowed to call them morons because I'm just some guy from New Zealand, not a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Just
Well, no,
saying.
you're not allowed to call them morons because that's ableist. Says the guy who's constantly calling everybody
I didn't know
morons.
that was ableist. I'm sorry.
Well, there's actually not many words many other words to use the same description, so I don't actually care. I'm not going to hold you to that standard.
How about dummies, low energy?
What we're supposed to be
Below.
we're supposed to be PC manginas here.
Low energy.
apparently.
Hey, reel it into him. Become a mangina like me and Steve.
That's right. Well, I don't know. That's I set a pretty high bar. My mangina bar is pretty high.
Oh, I said it.
know if you
I said it higher. I actually did the whole shit thing.
I don't know what that means.
But I'll show you my mangina bar sometime. It's nice. There's
Oh god, please don't show me that.
This is getting
leather seats.
this is
It's
getting
oak.
saucy.
It's beautiful. Well, listen. There's something else about this that I wanted to talk about, and we mentioned it a little bit when we were toward the beginning when we were sort of going around and telling about our post-election experiences.
Oh, I was drunk most of the day after.
I was
Literally, I got
home
home from work at noon. I had to go at like 2:00, so I didn't get any sleep. Hadn't slept for 36 hours because I actually went and recorded a video to basically, I literally titled the video "America, You Fucked Up." I spent 30 minutes just yelling at my phone, and basically, I then spent a while just kind of like talking to people, and I didn't get sleep for 36 hours. And then after I woke up, I started drinking heavily.
Congratulations, America.
America, you fucked up will be the title of the chapter on this in history books.
Yeah,
That time
they're gonna
America
teach
fucked
it in
up.
classes.
That
America,
other
you
time,
fucked up.
The great
Steve,
fuck
what
up
were you
of-
saying?
Congratulations,
America
America. You
fuck-
allowed the YouTube comments to become president.
Yeah. But so what I was going to say was, and this is why, like, you know, it's a little bit why I went off on Sam Harris earlier, and plus I just don't like him generally. But
Yeah,
but that attitude of
join the
I'm-
club, Steve.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I have viewers and supporters who like him, so it's my personal opinion. I just don't care for Sam Harris. And,
Okay.
and so when someone says like I'm just gonna read books for 4 years, okay, that must be nice for you. Or when people who are sort of on the pro-Trump side and they're like, oh, you pussies, you're crying because you lost an election. It must be nice to not have to talk to your friends.
Must be nice to not have empathy.
It must be nice to not have to talk to your friends about how scared they are, because that's been my last 2 days. I've lost count of how many PMs I've gotten, how many people I've talked to who I'm close to or who I care about or who I at least know a little bit.
I was talking to Katie pretty frantically yesterday.
Yeah, who have told me how who have told me how upset they are and how scared they are, how they're afraid they're disabled and they're afraid they're going to lose their health coverage, or they're afraid their kids are going to lose their health coverage.
Yeah, that's you for me.
I was already unable to afford therapy under Obama because I'm 18 and I'm not because I don't have a government job. I don't automatically get health insurance.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I wasn't.
We're crying.
That's
So I wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
That's ridiculous.
And now that Trump is in, it's going to be even harder for me to try and get therapy, which means that when I feel suicidal, it's going to hit hard because I feel that sometimes I just get into a really depressive state, and it's just going to hit hard because I'm not going to be able to afford therapy to deal with it.
Oh, man
I
up.
also have depression and anxiety and chronic migraines and that are hemiplegic, which basically means they mimic stroke symptoms, and they can affect like my entire body. And I have a lot of medications that I have to take. I also have GERD, like reflux that is so intense that it can affect your breathing, affect your voice box, and affect your nasal passageway. So it's like I'm on a lot of medication, and I could be screwed potentially. We'll see. The only thing that might save me is Ohio, acting upon its states' rights as they stand right now. If that could somehow, I don't know, prevent me from losing, we'll see.
But that's the thing. I see so many people like.
And my job ends in. Oh, sorry. My job ends in like 6 weeks, and I won't have any income after that if he got Social Security.
Well, I see people boasting and being like, "Oh, the SJW chairs are so delicious" and all this kind of stuff. And to be honest, I don't know what they are really boasting about, because it seems that what they're happy about is, okay, we have hurt our access to many services, probably. It's a big corporate giveaway. It's a huge increase in xenophobia, hatred, and bigotry. It's basically just going to be open season for Wall Street and the banks and deregulation. It's going to basically hurt all of us. And yet we're boasting because we just love seeing other people be sad. I don't understand it. It's just bizarre.
You're a pussy. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
I think the only reason why they voted Trump was to supposedly pwn some SJWs.
Oh God! Yeah, I mean, what the fuck?
Okay, so when it comes to the whole Republican idea of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, I might be able to pull myself up by my bootstraps if you stop fucking cutting them every time I pull them up farther.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that
you cut them shorter, and I have to reach back down.
I don't think.
What's that, Katie?
I said, are bootstraps even now? Like all the
I don't know.
I see, I never see fucking straps on them. Like whatever. Yeah. What does that even mean? Are they like suspenders, but they're coming up down from your boots, like all the way up?
We need a better metaphor, probably.
Yeah. Update your poor shaming metaphors, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Find a better metaphor.
Pull yourself up by your newts.
Pull your pants up by your suspenders. It's like, well, who wears
the Republican? Okay, so the Republicans should use pull yourself up by your noose knot, because that's what they're doing. Is they're tying a noose knot.
That's fucking morbid.
How about I just drop it?
I haven't been this depressed since I watched Birth of a Nation last week.
Yeah. I haven't been this depressed since I saw the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
I was depressed. Now I'm just angry.
Come on! I mean,
or Trump and WWE.
Yeah. Well,
there was no time more depressing than that. Actually, there was. When I was Clone War, that was worse. Sand. Why does sand?
When Futurama ended, that had me really depressed.
When sad, Trump's cameo in Home Alone 2.
Oh.
When my fellow theater patrons applauded when Yoda pulled out the lightsaber in episode 2, that was the last time I felt this disappointed in humanity.
Just when Anakin was talking about
with you people.
Phantom Menace set the bar pretty low.
Younglings.
Yeah.
Younglings.
Anakin killed younglings, and then Padme immediately had sex with him.
I hate that word, younglings. It's such a bad word.
Anakin killing younglings was the third film, not the second.
Well, whatever. Oh no, he wiped out the village. He wiped out the Sand People village, and then Padme was like, "Let's have sex."
Oh yeah, but then he admonished him for it in the third movie.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Well, also, not to mention, if you saw the Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay, I'm completely mixed up here.
In the Phantom Menace, Anakin Skywalker is so much younger than Padme. Like, that's almost like a creepy relationship when you think about it.
He's grown up by the time they hook up. It's not that
well, I mean, okay. So Padme is closer in age to Obi-Wan than she is in to
Well, he was
Anakin
grown up
than
by the
Anakin.
time they got
Palpatine is Trump.
together.
He's just-
But
He was
like
grown up.
when they
Palpatine is
started
Trump.
flirting, I think
just not
like he was
orange.
supposed to be 16 or 17. I got
Actually,
that impression.
Cracks.com did a video where it's basically like this fan theory that it actually makes the movie a little bit the whole saga or the whole prequel trilogy bearable if Padme is secretly in love with Obi-Wan.
But it does kind of ruin.
That was
it does
something
kind
that
of ruin
Cracks.com
their
put forward.
No, we're just going to talk about Star Wars for the next hour.
Yeah.
That makes her no different than me, because Obi-Wan was the only person in those trilogies I gave one shit about.
I agree. Yes.
It was like, I wonder what Obi-Wan's doing. Anybody see what he's doing?
Well, it's also
Oh,
clear that
God.
the movie
McGregor
that
is
A New Hope was meant to be like a singular movie. Like when you actually look at it.
I agree.
Ewan McGregor looks so found out in those movies.
Oh, and
Oh, God,
Ed,
he was-
Ed Wood's quite shocky.
He tried his
think
best with the shitty writing and directing that he got.
I think episode 1, he was probably excited. He was like, Star Wars. And then after that, he was like, he knew what he was in for. And he was like, oh, man, I signed on for 2 more of these.
He's just like, oh no, Anakin.
And speaking of that third one,
Get me down of here.
speaking of that third one, there was a line with Padme.
Well, I mean, Darth
There was a line
Vader,
that
like that
Padme
was
said
supposed
where
to be his real name.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
regard-
And then Lucas was like, no, it's a title. Anyway, look,
Let's
okay,
go-
I want to point out that we're finding it so impossible to cope with the election that we just spontaneously started talking about Star Wars.
Huge fan of the series.
Like it just
Escapism.
happened.
Oh,
kind of
7 was
necessary.
its redeeming.
How about
Yeah.
that upcoming movie, eh? Oh yeah. I don't know anything about it.
All right, let's.
But I
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say I would like to talk about we've talked about how we feel about what has already happened, but I would really like to talk about what strategies we should use going forward to make the best of this and do our damnedest to stop Trump in his fucking tracks.
Well, I have my first thought, and it's very general, but it's, we're all talking about 4 years. The next election is in 2 years. And
The midterms.
Yes.
The midterm elections have been the bane of progressive existence forever, because we all show up and we vote in the presidential election, and then we stay home during the midterms, and Republicans take back over and undo everything that we did. So it's going to be even more important this time, because we lost, and we're going to have this, Republican-run government for 2 years. In 2018, step 1 is show up at the polls in 2018 and vote for progressive candidates, all the way down the ticket. If your senator is up, vote for a progressive candidate.
That's what I did. That's what I did on my ballot. Was there was a ballot for like the local judges and stuff like that. I basically was like, okay, it's like I know the Democrat is always going to be better than the Republican, just on issues in general. So I'm going to vote the Democrat.
And I think we need to get out of this mindset of 4 years, 4 years, 4 years. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a rough 4 years, but we have an election
We've got
in 2
4
years.
years with Trump, but we have another election in 2 years, which can make Trump's life a bit of a hell when it comes to trying to pass
that's
anything.
Need a bit more people that actually are progressive, though.
Although I actually, I made a tweet, or I made a tweet. I wrote a tweet yesterday where I basically said, okay, generals, I know Trump is the new president now, but don't give him the fucking nuclear codes.
But I can actually see a risk, which is like I've seen some people saying that the takeaway from this election was to build the infrastructure and get out the vote and shit. In my honest opinion, that's not the takeaway, because it's already what people have been trying to do. The takeaway should be a message and a vision which people want to get behind. Because you have to motivate people. Without the message, what's the point in all the infrastructure? Because people won't show up and actually fucking do it. They'll just be like,
well, I mean, hopefully
they keep telling
Trump
me to vote for stuff that I don't care about. And that's just
hopefully Trump will crash the economy, and then the whole country will blame him.
I know, but that's like the worst.
And they won't blame Obama.
That's the worst thing you want to happen to get people to vote, is things are so bad.
Yeah.
You prefer that they didn't get that bad. You know,
And it's really unfortunate that that might be the motivator. It's not something
Or the
here
demotivator.
wanted, but
Free
it's
blood.
not something that anybody, you know, in this
Ah, that joke fell
hangout,
flat like
numerous,
Kevin Nash's quad.
yeah,
Like,
of our friends
Okay.
wanted, but it
Yeah,
might be,
I'm done.
it might be the only fucking thing to hit
Hmm.
rock bottom to actually get people to wake up. And, you know, there are going to be people even then, when we do hit rock bottom, which we probably will, we're on our way there, that they don't change their mind. That's unfortunate, but some of them will.
I'm just saying,
Um,
building the voting infrastructure is a waste of time if you can't get people to vote. So,
like,
Yeah.
like my advice for everyone watching: keep an eye out on Mike Pence, because if something bad happens
Yes.
to Trump, like if he gets like
Well, the
even
thing is,
if he gets
Trump actually
assassinated
said
or
that.
if he gets impeached, trust me when I say that Pence is actually going to be far worse.
hmm.
Well, I mean, I feel like Pence is pretty much already going to be running the country because what does Trump know how to do?
Well, yeah,
Jack
'cause
shit.
Trump's a bit of a
Well, this is
empty-
something too.
Trump's
I wanna
probably
point
going to
out,
have everyone else run the country, and that means we've got a bunch of neocons about to run the country.
This is really important that a lot of people don't realize that
Let's make
it
Ben
might
Carson
be
Secretary of Education.
it might be incredibly far-fetched to pull this off, but it's actually possible to not only impeach and kick Trump out of the presidency, but it's also possible to impeach Pence as well and everybody in the executive branch. You just have to have a reason, and you have to put pressure and, yeah, basically like scare the crap out of / humiliate the people in power, or like have some sort of legal reasons such as treason, a felony, a misdemeanor, high crimes. Trump, I
Right.
mean, you know, that could be coming. Let's hope
But
that whatever judge and jury is you know, looking over his case is mostly Democrats, or at least people who hate Trump, because otherwise he might not be convicted. As for Mike Pence, if he tries to institute his conversion therapy, you could make the argument that that is high crime, and that you could impeach him for that. The question is, you know, will Republicans in the Senate and the House, are they going to, you know, dislike Trump and Pence enough to actually, or like be motivated by pressure from the public to actually do that?
I actually just read an article about Mitch McConnell's reaction, and he was just like, he was asked about the stuff that Trump wants to do, and he basically just picked through it, and he was like, "That's not a priority. That's not something we really want to do." Oh, abortion, yeah, we want to do that. Tax cuts, oh yeah, that's great. The stuff
Well,
about lobbyists, well,
tax
that's
for the
not a
rich. They
priority.
want
We'll just we'll put that aside. The wall thing.
They want to put the tax
I'm not
burden
sure
on the
about
poor.
But it was basically like all of the corporate special interest stuff. McConnell was like, yeah, we'll look at that. And then when it had like, try to put restrictions on lobbyists, he was like, oh, that's not a priority. We might come back to that. And it was like, they're just going to pick and choose all the bad shit that is as insider and corporate as possible. And then some of the like kind of reforms that Trump's talking about, they're very like, meh, nah.
Oh, and
We
by
don't
the
want
way,
that
I want to point out to everybody who voted for Trump because he promised to build a wall on the southern border and make Mexico pay for it. His most recent version of that proposal was that we would pay for it, and then Mexico would reimburse us. And I just want to point out, that you can write a bill that says Mexico will reimburse us. They don't have to do it. Mexico doesn't obey our laws. We can pass all the laws we want, saying Mexico has to pay for the wall.
But this
They
is
don't
America.
have to.
If they don't like it, they can get out. Oh wait, they're not.
Wait a minute. We're throwing them out now.
If they don't like to
With-
see that,
yeah.
Oh wait, we're building a wall to keep him out.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're already somewhere else. So forget about
Yeah, they're already outside of our jurisdiction.
it. Yeah.
If they don't want to pay for the wall, they can go. Oh wait, they're gone already.
We're leaving anyway.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we're kicking them out already. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
Man.
are we gonna shake
Hey,
them down
that's
on
like-
their way across the border? Give us your
Hey.
money. Pay 'em for the wall.
hey,
Also,
I don't want to shoot them
this
down.
is assuming
Gays
that
for
Mexicans are really going to want to go into America. I think a lot of them will just be like, fuck
have you
it.
ever seen like, you guys seen like the gays for Trump stuff and all that? that happened like before.
Well, I said like to some guy, Trump has a lot of anti-LGBTQ stuff, and he sent me a photo of Trump holding an LGBTQ flag, and I was like, seriously, that's it?
Yeah.
He's in a photo holding a flag. Okay, I guess he's fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's like they've got
Well,
such a
it's
low
just like-
standard.
He
It's
could
just
hold
like
an
he says he's
anti-fascist
not.
flag for all I care, but that it doesn't make him an anarchist who wants to hurt fascists.
It's
Who wants to
like
stop fascists?
he says he's. It's like the thing where he says he's not a racist. I don't care.
Oh,
I'm not a
He
racist.
acts like a
I just hate
racist,
black
so he's a
people.
racist.
Like,
Yeah, I mean,
like
I don't care.
racist,
You
but
yeah, you could say that you're a racist all day long. It doesn't mean shit to me. I don't
Or that
judge
he's
based
not
on
one.
what you say.
I think you
But
meant
Steve-
not one.
he's the least racist person you've ever met.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh,
He
well,
is so
say no
sick.
more.
You know that?
I didn't
Well, I mean-
realize you were the least racist person I'd ever met.
Oh,
so I'm.
I
apologize.
hate- Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's my
I
bad.
hate when I sit with people who are like, Obama's so racist because Black Lives Matter is racist, and then I'm
Yeah,
like,
how dare those black people
Ah.
complain when police shoot them?
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like they don't have any
Like-
idea what Black Lives Matter actually is.
You should calm down. Those cops are killing you. Big whoop. Calm
But it's,
down.
it's like, people who, some people
Oh, they
who are black
kill
and
more-
stuff I
they
don't
kill
like,
more
and
white
you're black,
people.
so you're bad. And it's just
Yeah.
like
Oh.
death by association. It's like, you can have complaints about
Technically,
specific
police
BLM.
do kill more white people, but that's not per capita. So it's like
It's a much higher rate.
I don't
which
think
is the-
Obama has
yeah.
really been very involved in all of the politics around that. So it's just like the only reason that they would blame Obama for that kind of stuff is because he is also black.
not
Yes,
to
he's
mention
not
they
really-
specifically target areas where people are more likely to be black. Also,
It's not
people
like
are
Obama
more
has
likely
really
to be
been really
poor.
involved in BLM in any real fashion.
Yeah.
It's just he's half black, so they're like, oh, it must have something to do with him.
It's his fault.
Yeah.
There's just something about him that they don't like.
Oh, and people are like,
I wonder what it is.
well,
Hmm.
racism has increased under Obama, and it's like,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
remember-
Probably just
why
a
is that?
coincidence.
I mean, that's a mystery. Yeah.
Who
I
knows
couldn't
why? You can't
explain.
say why.
Well, hey, when it comes down to it, I mean, Reagan gave amnesty to Cubans. As soon as Obama tries to give amnesty, they don't like it. Why? Because
yeah.
one, he has a D in front of his name, and two, because he's black. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
this is a black guy with a policy proposal.
Well,
Fuck
it's the
him.
same.
Mhm.
It's the same thing as the Affordable Care Act. A lot of the Affordable Care Act was stuff that Republicans had supported
Yeah.
up until relatively
Oh,
recently.
Richard
And then
Nixon-
all of a
well-
sudden, they don't like it anymore. I wonder what the difference is.
I mean, the
you know?
last good, in my opinion, the last really great presidential candidates, or I can't say that Nixon was actually great, but he was pretty much New Deal. He was near the beginning where stuff started to go away from the New Deal, which led into Reagan. But then there was also Jimmy Carter, who was basically the last ever New Deal president. And then Reagan got in, and he basically just fucked over the economy.
But I do also think under Obama there's been quite an element of complacency among the left who are just sort of like,
Definitely.
we've got this Democratic dude, so we don't have to actually push very hard for our issues. It's all fine. And that's not the case, and I think that is a big problem. So maybe the Trump thing will jazz up the left a bunch, but I think it's a bit silly that we have to.
Well, I mean,
that
the
this kind of
only
thing has to
reason
happen before the left is like, we're actually going to fight.
I think
Yeah,
really the
oh,
only reason we
we're
ended up
screwed, let's
getting
fight.
Obama was because people were sick of Bush. They were sick. They were like, well, we're not doing so well economically. There was just a market crash.
When Obama did a lot of compromise with the Republicans, and he did sort of a lot of milquetoast.
in many ways-
people were silent. When we did the drone wars, everyone's just like,
In many ways,
the Democrat, whatever.
in many ways, when you look at Obama's economic policy, he was actually to the right of Reagan. I mean, that's how far to the right our
Oh, but
system has
Texas
gone.
had been degrading over the decades, so it's like he's kind of
Yeah.
He didn't.
I mean, it's
I
like
don't
when
know.
you keep
I don't
trying
get this
to
too
when you
complicated.
keep trying to reach across and they keep backing up. You don't go with them. You back up and you build your defenses
Right.
because he's trying to bring you into a trap. And so yeah, we've got these third way Democrats who they basically they'll fix the economy, or I say fix in a quite relative term, but they make the economy better than it was before, where there was just a shitty mess under a neocon.
And then Trump
And
can
the
fuck it up
and then the
again.
neocons
Yeah.
and then the neocons don't learn, and the country doesn't learn, and they vote in another neocon after that. I mean, they voted in Clinton after they voted in HW.
Someone's
because
gonna have to clean up the Trump mess 4 to 8 years from now, so that's gonna be fun.
yeah,
This should be interesting.
That's-
Yeah.
Definitely
Let's
gonna
talk
happen.
they're
about-
gonna need to drain the swamp, so to speak.
Yeah.
Let's
Katie?
talk about some of the things that are going on right now in response to Trump's win.
8 transgender teens committed
And where
suicide.
things are going from here. Like, for example, college students all over the country are walking out of their colleges. They're marching. They're blocking freeways. Some of them are rioting. And there is
Great job, comrade.
there's a planned protest and march in Washington, D.C. on the 20th of January. And last I checked, there were over 8,000 people who said they were going to that. And that number was growing. So how do we feel about
Well, I hope it does grow. I hope that, I mean,
Yeah.
I would like to go myself. I mean, I only live an hour from DC. If there's something going on, I would like to go too, because the thing is, that's our message to the rest of the world. That's the great mass of American people who are horrified by what happened on Tuesday, saying to everybody else, hey, we're still here. We don't want this to happen. We want to fix this. We want to change this. We want to fight this.
Yeah.
You know, so if Trump's inauguration winds up being the most protested presidential inauguration ever, I will be incredibly proud of that. That will restore a tiny bit of my lost faith in this country.
the number of people saying that they're going is now up to 13,000. That's incredible.
Yeah, I would like
Didn't
to
you
tell me.
say
I
you were
would love.
going, Bliss?
I just learned from one of my supervisors that I will be able to get that day off, most likely, but I would probably also have to have Saturday off. I live about 6 hours from DC, so that for me is nothing. I've made super long road trips with my dad up to Massachusetts and Maine to visit family like my entire life. So 6 hours. Psh,
Oh yeah, basically like Massachusetts, Ohio, and DC, they kind of make up not an exact equilateral triangle, but they make up like a nearly equilateral triangle. So yeah, it's about like a 6-hour drive.
Why would you possibly know that? How would you have that just on the top
This
of
is
your
funny.
head? Oh, that's an equilateral triangle.
Well, just distance-wise.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this article that is
Although it
talking about
depends
the
on what part of
inauguration
Ohio.
day. And it's talking about what musicians will play at the day, and it said musicians are almost nowhere to be found.
Oh, fucking Kid Rock is a
Good.
douche who's
It says Kid Rock and Leonard Skinner are possibilities. Ugh. Maybe
Leonard Skinner is
Shit.
still around.
Stained.
But
Well,
by the
I knew
way,
that
I just-
Kid Rock was a douchebag who supported Trump, so no surprise there.
if I
This inauguration.
Still like Picture though.
If-
that song you did back in the
if I had a magic wand, obviously I would use it to undo the election, but I would also cast a spell so that every time Leonard Skinner played Sweet Home Alabama, it would come out Neil Young's Southern Man, no matter how hard they tried.
Yes.
Never actually heard
I love
Neil
that song.
Southern Man before.
Oh.
Southern Man will
Well, I mean,
be-
hey, I also don't think I'll get messed with that much because I look like a scary guy when I get into death metal makeup.
Hmm.
I mean, when I go into the mosh pit, I look like a scary guy.
But I will say, I think it's fantastic that people are protesting. There's been some debate around violence and rioting and stuff, and I think no one should cause issues.
Martin
but I
Luther
think
King
peaceful
said
protests,
that-
like if people are attacking you, you have to resist, and you have to if it's like mass arrests or sit-ins or like sometimes people do die-ins. I don't know. whatever kind of thing they want to do, that's fantastically fine. But I don't think they should just destroy random property.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
violence. I don't think anybody should turn to violence. But I mean, 10,000 people stopping traffic. I'm all for that.
Gandhi,
Yeah.
go.
I mean,
Gandhi
Yeah,
style.
Like
Well,
I
I mean,
support,
yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
fully support the Like I'm not sure if I'd be involved in a protest, but I do support them. Like I'm not sure what I actually have going on the 20th. So
Well,
If
you might have to be
people-
prepared to be arrested. Like sometimes you
Yes.
have to be like, I might get arrested.
Yeah,
And just be
but
ready.
at the same time, I think that like if people do like resist arrest, I can't fucking blame them for that. It may not
no.
be the smartest
I think
strategy, but it depends. I don't know, but at the same time, I think that we can utilize multiple different strategies, and that we shouldn't poo-poo, the different options
But
that we
there
have
could
to
be
approach
some
this.
Well, I
pepper
think the
spraying and
DRS.
beatings and stuff.
I think DRS tactics should be used when it comes down to it, because if your protest isn't going to get anything done if like all of you are just arrested and there's no resistance. Now you don't have to beat the crap out of the police officers or anything like that. Anarchists have plenty
That's
of
why-
DRS tactics that don't involve
Yes.
actually
Exactly.
injuring anybody. Of course, you might
Yeah.
push a police officer, but you're not trying to injure them. You're just
Mhm.
trying to get them away from your friend. You push
Yeah.
your friend to the back. It just changes the lineup so that the police have to deal with different people each time, and they get overwhelmed by the numbers.
Now this is
Escalation is bad, though. Yeah. Anyways, Katie.
well,
Yeah.
this is a conversation, Ross, that I want to have with you about, you and I both identify as anarchists, but I'm very new to this. Now, you said that there are tactics to, avoid arrest by police without outright, beating the crap out of them. Now, could you list some of those for anybody out there who is looking to protest, looking to protect themselves?
Well, I'd say that the main one is that basically if you have a whole bunch of people in a giant mass, the people in the front, because the police can't break through, those are the people who they try to arrest first. What happens is that you intervene, like the whole line will intervene, they get their friends back, and now the police, so that their friend can recuperate, and they just kind of switch places so that the police have to keep dealing with new people, and they just kind of keep going in a circle a little bit.
And other things that I've heard is to have plenty of milk and also medical supplies on hand, because milk is an acid neutralizer, and if you get sprayed in the face by mace, you can splash it on your face, and it will help reduce the damage.
That's what I've done. That's what I got when I got maced by a police officer at a workers' protest in New Hampshire, actually. So I got maced, and that was like the first thing I did, was I put milk on my face. Of course, the workers who were protesting were all workers at a supermarket, so I mean that kind of makes things it makes it easier to get your hands on milk.
Right.
But just that was like the first thing I did. I'm like, well, that's because capsaicin in that's what's used in, it's the same ingredient that makes peppers spicy. That's actually what makes it burn your eyes.
Right.
Capsaicin, the oil, is neutral. It's burning effects. What happens is
I'll be right back.
I can't
Keep
remember
talking.
exactly what it does, but it's basically chemistry where water will just kind of spread it around. Milk will kind of just take it and bring it away. It'll basically coat it and just
Man,
you
I
stop
remember
feeling it.
That image of that cop who was liberally using pepper spray on college campuses. Like, I wonder if we're going to see a lot of images like that, of just, police casually walking around people, spraying them with pepper spray. Like, I wonder if that's going to happen.
Oh, especially when it comes to like Mexican students. Imagine like how badly they'll get pepper sprayed.
Yeah. Like that's gonna be pretty painful. Anyway, like I said, I'm not sure if I'll protest personally, but I will provide support for protests sort of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try to I'd love to make sure to get there, but I'm not sure if I actually have the means to travel there.
Right.
I mean, I don't own a car or anything. I don't own a car and I don't have a license. But, I mean, I could figure out a route from the train in Lowell to get to a different train in Boston that'll actually take me to, not to DC, but maybe take me to a route that'll get, like, an indirect route where I have to get on new trains to get to DC.
Okay.
But I also know that there are trains directly from DC to Boston, too, so there might actually be ones that go the other way, too, so.
Another thing, American anarchists. So when it comes to it seems like there are a lot of like anarchists and socialists, not social democrats, but like real socialists and communists and things. Some of them feel like voting is pointless all the time, and I disagree. I think it's not.
I think you should. I think you should definitely vote on referendums.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to a presidential election, if there is something that is really at stake, like this time, we have a guy who is really like as terrible as Trump. I think it is kind of your duty to try and keep someone like that out of office, as an anarchist, as a socialist,
and
as communist.
And to vote for policies that help promote justice.
Oh, definitely vote on like ballot initiatives too.
Overall.
You should also definitely vote on ballot initiatives to make things better. Like I voted, one thing that was positive is now marijuana's legal in my state. Now I can legally get stoned.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I don't have to rely on the cartels anymore.
Election.
I'm definitely. Yeah. Although then again, I'm not old enough because it was for 21 and older, so. Yeah, well, I'm also technically not old enough to drink in the U.S. either, but that hasn't stopped me.
Anyways, I think I should probably get going because I have a kitten that showed up at my house that I need to
you were aggressive.
figure out what to do with. I could probably take it.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up anyway.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have this done a while ago, but
I think we got lost.
We spent too long talking about Star Wars.
Everybody loves to talk. Everybody just loves to talk.
Hopefully, we've given people out there enough material of our misery and tears for them to create a little montage of like.
Well, I mean, they actually got like. They're gonna make a Trigglypuff compilation of me. Like they're gonna compare me as like the male version of Trigglypuff because I'm
look at
angry.
These disgusting SJWs caring about what happens.
Actually caring about people.
They're invested in the future. They want to make the world a bunch of losers.
They want change.
Yeah. I can't believe they don't hate everything.
Democrats are the real racists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sure
they're the
they
real racists. They want to ensure the vote for black.
They're the real racists. They're not pro-Israel.
They're the
They did
real
slavery.
Yeah.
I like how you're basically the Republican Party likes to consider you anti-Semitic if you with Kurt Schilling recently. God, he was on my state's baseball team. Fucking the guy was he's running for office, and he basically, his opponent was a Jew who was a Democrat, and he's like, I don't know how Jewish people can support the Democratic Party since they've been working so hard to try and destroy Israel, which isn't true. And then it's kind of like you look at it, and it's like, wow, that is such a dirty way to try and slip in that your opponent's a Jew. Because that was basically him trying to go like, oh yeah, by the way, my political opponent's a Jew. Vote for me.
Yeah.
Like for a long time, there was so much hatred against Muslims and African Americans and women and other people that when I suddenly noticed there was a huge amount of anti-Semitism in the alt-right, I was like, oh my God, that never goes away.
Yeah.
It's always there.
Speaking as someone who...
Oh, it was there with early anarchists too, and they were...
mainly European
Sometimes you don't
Jewish,
notice.
Seeing this anti-Semitism disgusts me.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why some people call anti-Semitism the mother hate. because it really is everywhere. I mean,
and
it's
it stretches back so far historically.
I feel bad for the liberal ogre because and for Danny, my Jewish friends out there just
yeah.
Well,
I
think, like,
would feel
they
sorry
were-
for anybody who tries to fuck with the liberal ogre. Yeah, I take
They-
your point.
They were hating on Muslims
oh yeah,
for so long.
Fellow Pros is
that-
awesome.
Yeah,
There was
he's-
so much
he's
hate
great.
about Muslims for so long that I just forgot about anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, you're just like, it didn't go away.
I started getting anti-Semitic comments on my YouTube videos almost immediately, and I'm not Jewish, but I guess to some people I look Jewish. So yeah, I mean, if you look somewhat Jewish and you express liberal opinions, there are some people who will immediately jump to the conclusion of Jew. And
Well,
you know,
I'm 1/8 Jewish, and
which-
I said that in a video, and a commenter was like, "I really love your videos, but now I sort of have a different view of you." And I was like,
Gee.
"What?"
yeah,
I was like, "Jesus
It's
Christ!" Some of these people.
yeah, it's like I almost wish I was. You know what I mean? It's like
I wish I was more Jewish. I'm only like my
I have
grandparents.
I have Jewish
grandparents.
family members, which kind of like really like it pisses me off when I have
wish I
to deal
was
with
75%
anti-Semitism.
Jewish.
So do I. Yeah.
well, there is. I mean, there's like a reactionary part of me too.
20.
It's just like when people in my family say homophobic things, I'm like, man, I wish I had kids and I wish they were gay. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because
Well, I
then
mean,
when
my
you-
mom can
came to
my
me,
mom
I'm gay,
knowing
like,
that I'm bisexual,
cool.
so she can kind of
Yeah.
use that. But it's like at the same time, I actually am like, there are just members of my family who I don't tell that I'm bisexual because I know that they're gonna like react by trying to put me through conversion therapy.
yeah, they're
And
gonna
it's
try
like-
to shock you
Depends what to
straight.
bring back.
It's like so I've never said a word to like my great grandfather. I've never said it to my grandmother's aunt. Like these people
So we
are
could.
are really big Bible thumpers. I will not tell them. I will keep that secret to their graves.
We could end this hangout on the message of like, everybody just be accepting of your kids.
Yes, don't be.
What?
That's the
No,
message.
no. Toss them in the
Unless
trash
they're
if they're alt-right.
Don't do that.
Just don't be shitty to your kids. Yeah, can we build on that?
Yeah.
Let's
Plus
start
Star
there and
Wars.
build on that.
Yeah.
Make for a more tolerant society.
Just don't be shitty to your kids and teach
Somebody
your kids not to be
think of the
shitty to other
children.
people.
And in general, humans, be less shitty, please.
Yeah, it's
Well,
And also, Mr. Repsion, shut the fuck up.
and
What's that about Mr. Repson again?
Oh, I just really dislike Mr. Repsion. I used
Who
to
doesn't?
actually talk. I used to actually like talk to him like in chat,
Isn't that a-
like not chat rooms, but I used to like type to him, and then it was like we
It's a whole lot of
we used to
hangout.
actually have conversations. Like I used to be really friendly with him, and then it's like and then I got to watch him drink the MRM Kool-Aid, and I'm like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
He's a
Oh,
bandwagon
there's a-
jumper.
fuck this
there's
guy.
a lot of that going around.
Well, we'd better
There's
wrap this up,
there's quite a
guys.
few
Yeah, let's-
messages in this hangout then.
Yeah,
He's a
let's.
bandwagon jumper.
Let's end this
Fuck-
hangout with
fuck
the
Mr.
message of fuck
Repsion.
TJ.
Yeah.
Look after your kids.
1, 2,
Fuck
Look
you,
after
asshole.
your kids. Let's end it with look after your kids message. I like
Yes.
that. Let's say look after your kids. Be nice to
Don't
each
do
other.
drugs, even though they're legal.
Don't
What?
just say no.
Don't do drugs, even though we're in
So
favor of
don't
legalizing them.
Yeah, don't do drugs
Don't-
even though we're want to legal.
Don't. Yeah. Just be nice. Just be nice to each other. I can tell
Even
you
if
from
you have to
experience.
smoke pot to do so.
I can tell you from experience, it's not that fucking hard. It's way easier
Really
to be
not.
nice
Yeah.
than to be an asshole.
It's easier to be nice than to be an asshole.
It's
Yeah.
so much easier, and it
Although
makes
it's
your life
easier
so
to be
much
an
easier.
asshole. Although it's easier to be an asshole to assholes.
Yeah, like
Oh
Yeah, but once you
Like,
figure out who they are, you just
the-
avoid them. You just don't talk to
Like
them.
getting blocked. I got blocked by TJ on Tumblr like back like a couple years ago,
DJ has
and that
Tumblr.
was when I was one of his fans. Yes, he has a
He's one of
Tumblr.
those, he's one of those
And he
Tumblr
bitches about
anti-feminists.
Tumblr
He
all
know
the time.
he knows
called
more
me
about
a
Tumblr than
Tumblr
I do. He knows more about Tumblr than I do.
And yet
Yet
you bitch-
some, and
Okay,
I'm
okay.
supposed to be like I'm an SJW by his standards, and I'm supposed to know more according to him about Tumblr. Yet he knows more than me about Tumblr. Like,
Wow.
Okay. Be nice. Okay, but this is for real now.
Yeah.
Okay, be nice. Be nice to each other. Be good to each other. Don't be shitty to your kids.
fine.
You know,
I was gonna
stand by
smack
each other
my
and love
kids
each other.
around.
And just be
but-
good people.
I was gonna smack my kids around, Steve. What the fuck?
Well, I'm telling you not to. I'm saying don't do that. All right,
I
that's it,
can't hit them over the head with my BC Rich guitar.
You need to stop.
All right, we
don't.
gotta go, guys.
You need to
All right,
stop.
yeah.
Everybody, thanks
I'll stop.
everybody for watching. And
Bye.
just be decent, okay?
We're
All right.
out.
And good luck.